Hey guys, what's up? So, on our quest to find the solution for what's going on in the black communities, I'm going to turn to Mr. Officer Tatum and Mrs. Candace Owens to really elaborate on us. And, they've never really come up with a solution because they make money off shitting on the black community. So, what we're going to do is we're just going to play some logical rounds. And this is why I like to call myself the Black Sudoku because I listen to people, I store things in my head, and I connect the dots. Okay, so let's go through Officer Tatum and Candace Owens videos so we can finally put a nail in the coffin to find the resolution and the problems in the black communities and who or what is behind it. Is it systematic racism? Is it just black people just messing up? We're going to go through their videos. So I'm not the most exciting YouTuber, but you got to follow this because education is education. Let's go. Let's start with Tatum.
I don't even know what to do with Chicago. I don't know how to fix it. I mean, they gun each other down like it's in a war zone. My thing is that you got to change the way people think. You got to change their mindset. Maybe if you can get young brothers to value themselves more, to have some leadership other than the Al Sharptons and these fake black leaders that push you deeper into victimhood. Maybe you can get some other leaders that can get you to think differently. And if you think differently, maybe you'll treat other people differently.
Okay, so obviously he's not saying he's got all the answers. He started that segment off with, I don't know what to do about Chicago. So with respect to Tatum, let's say he's just sort of suggesting that it's the way they think. He's saying maybe if you learn to think differently, you'll be able to treat people differently. So let's note that down. Okay, let's play some Sudoku here. If any of you love that game, you'll know we're really going to get to the bottom of this because there's no assumption when you play Sudoku. You really join the dots. Let's go to his next video. Let's hear what he has to say.
It's the mentality. It's the drug usage. It's the drug dealing. It's the fatherless homes that push the pool of blacks down to this portion because they ain't had no daddy and they struggle to get out of this. Don't know who they are. No identity. No future. Where's your future? Who is your future? What is your lineage? You have no identity. So you find identity in people that are counterproductive to the movement and counterproductive to your success. That is important. It matriculates down through society in the black community. How do you know, Brandon? Because I grew up around all black people. I grew up in a black community.
Okay. So we made some notes. He said it's the fatherless homes, it's people not knowing who they are, it's the identity, and identifying in people who are counterproductive to the community. And he said it matriculates down in society. And with this time, he's a bit more sure of himself because he says he grew up there. So that's how he knows. He wasn't guessing. He wasn't saying, I don't know, I'm not sure. He's saying this is what the issue is. The mentality, fatherless homes, don't know who they are, identifying in people who are counterproductive to society, and the trickling down of the wrong mentality. So to me, if I'm to be real honest with you, this seems like an educational problem. This seems like something that needs to be fixed in schools. If I'm right or wrong, okay? Well, that's a stupid phrase, but you get what I'm saying. I think that's where that's the solution because that is why you have education in society. If I am right, everything, who you identify with, role models are taught in schools, or at least white people teach about their role models in schools. The culture trickling down, things trickle down through schools. We know maths because of schools, not because it trickled down in society. So if the right passage for black people is going to trickle down, then it has to be put in our schools because speaking about what they're speaking about, we're talking about black people in a separate entity. So then if we're talking about black people in a separate entity and blaming the problem on black people, then our solution has to be relative to black people. So if we're going to say black people have these problems, then our solution has to be placed in the schools. Am I blaming the system? I don't know. Let's hear what Candace Owens has to say.
And I attach that to intellect too. I think, as the education system continues to fail Black America, because it is.
And I just want to be clear, she's she's also talking about violence in, I think it's Chicago. Yeah, she's talking about conflicts in Chicago. So I want to make this clear. They're both talking about Chicago. And this is Candace Owens' solution after she's insulted black people and saying we're dumb because of our culture. Not in those words, but generally. So let's go to her resolution.
Choose certain things.
And I attach that to intellect too. I think, as the education system continues to fail Black America, because it is failing Black America, when you can look in California and 75% of boys can't read, when you can go into Baltimore, 75% of Black boys can't pass a basic literacy exam. We can go into Baltimore and across 5 schools can't find one child that's literate, proficient in math and writing. You have an issue. We have a larger issue. And the issue, as I understand it, from some recent books that I read, is that they've dumbed down the education system because they think anything that's considered a challenge now is not fair to Black America, right? So you actually have schools that are teaching Ebonics because they're saying that the schools need to be more cultural and adapt. It's the same thing with, like, before, English should be a requirement. Now they're insisting on allowing kids to never have to learn a word of English and, just speak Spanish throughout all of school, making sure those programs are available. So we're seeing this sort of corroding of the education system. And if you can't, think, right, you're not going to be able to think through a situation or a conflict, right, and say, okay, what are the benefits here? This person, I'm upset about this. What are the 3 different ways I can handle this? My thing is always pick up the phone and call someone. Don't let it get to step B. Pick up the phone, call somebody, say what you think, and let that be it, and let it be the end of it. But
Okay. So she's also talking about violence in Chicago with a guy called Ken Face. And her thing is that she blames it on the schools, and she says that the schools are dumbing down Black people. Do you understand what I'm saying? She's saying that the schools are dumbing down Black people, and she even further goes on to say that based on education, when you have a conflict with someone, you are better off to handle it when you're more literate. I didn't really let's hear that connection that she made with conflict. 1 second.
the education system. And if you can't, think, right, you're not going to be able to think through a situation or a conflict, right, and say, okay, what are the benefits here? This person, I'm upset about this. What are the 3 different ways I can handle this? My thing is always pick up the phone and call someone. Don't let.
So she's saying the more smarter you are, the more educated you are, the more literate you are, the more you are better equipped to deal with conflict. Okay. So now these two, you see, these two individuals, these 2 white panderers are sort of at the forefront of the face of Black Republicans, even though I say they're not Black Republicans. Well, they are Black Republicans, but their views are not necessarily Black Republican views, because there's nothing in the Republican manifesto that says you have to sit down and shit on Black people your whole career. But what I'm trying to say is these same people will come and tell you that there's no racism, right? But the simple resolution to their problems is like they don't want to admit it. Because if you say that the problems of the killings that are going on starts in the schools or starts with the mentality, and then you will sit down on your podcast and say that the schools are dumbing Black people down, or dumbing down inner cities where they're not even teaching them basic English, or 5% of kids, some whatever stats she was given. If you come and sit down and you say that, then you are already admitting that the problems that we are seeing in Chicago with the killings and the ill mind behavior and the mentality is organized by the same system. Now, in one of my previous videos, I played a video from a set of guys called Hip Hop for Change, where they exposed the facts that the media is also heavily involved in the prison system, and they invest in it. So you have this sort of culture where they're also promoting the gun violence, and those people broke it down like they're promoting the gun violence so they can fill the prison quota. But it's even more than that, because what they're also doing is they're also promoting a future for these young boys to get out of their bad financial situation. So if I see that a lot of rappers are getting these $1 million contracts to start talking about killing their people and degrading women, and the schools are failing me, as Candace Owens said, not me, as Candace Owens said, then what am I going to train myself better to do? And this is what I don't understand, that these two individuals can make hundreds of videos insulting or degrading or just saying things that are humiliating to black people, right? They're the ones with a major platform, all right? They have this big platform. They understand that it's the schools, but they don't want to touch on that subject. You see, when you come as a preacher and you come with a solution, there's only so much talking about the solution you can do before someone is going to ask you, why aren't you doing something about it? If Candace Owens and Officer Tatum and all the others start saying it's the education, it's doing this, it's doing that, it's doing that, it's only going to be a matter of time before people start saying, well, why don't you start working on a school? Or why don't you do something about it since you're in that position? So they have to dance around the blame. They have to make it seem like black people are just stupid because we want to be stupid. So when you come with that, from that angle, then all you need to do is sit on your ass and talk, pander to the white people, let them enjoy you, get some money off them, make your spouse, both of them having white spouses, make your spouse happy, make their family happy, let them know that you're the good Negro, and then take it from there. So if you come and you talk about, hey, this is something that is systematically done, then guess what they're going to say? Well, here's what they're going to say. When you talk about a system that imprisons black people, this is what they say.
Take responsibility for your own actions. Take responsibility for your own life. And white liberals the same way. Stop coming out here virtue signaling. I don't need you to tell me who I am and what my experiences are in America. Everybody, we're individuals. We're not a collective. Just because one black person experienced oppression don't mean every black person does. We're individuals, and we should be treated as such. Just because one black person commit a crime don't mean we all criminals. Just because one police officer does a bad thing doesn't mean that all police officers are bad. You got to operate on individuality. You are individually responsible for your future.
You see, like I said, what I like to do is I like to use them to debunk themselves, okay? Here's a man who sits down in front of his camera, makes about 3 to 4 videos a day, and then tells people you're responsible for your own future. If people are responsible for their own future, why do you feel the need that every day you have to come and advise people on how they live? Why does something bring you to come and share your thoughts and guide people according to what you see as truth? Because the reality is there's nothing like individualism. If there was really individualism, we won't have schools. If everyone was supposed to just give birth and say, hey, you're responsible for your own future. This is the same man who minutes ago just blamed fatherless homes on the Chicago problems. Turns around and says, you're responsible for your own future, individualism. If it was individualism, he wouldn't have mentioned fatherless homes. Do you connect the dots? If it was individualism, we wouldn't have schools. Here's the big one. If it was individualism, we won't have a government. So for some of you who don't understand why we have a government, imagine you have 8 people living in a little small area. And that small area has very bad roads, okay? One of the people is a billionaire. He can pay to fix that road in a second, but he's an old man and he hardly drives. He drives once in a while with his butler, so why should he pay a lot of money to fix the road? Another man runs this big truck, probably the biggest thing on the road, but he's broke. Another guy has a small car that doesn't make much effect, but he drives a lot of time. Whichever way, these guys are going to have to come to some conclusion of who's going to be responsible to pay for that road. And everyone doesn't feel it's fair on them to take a particular portion. Some people believe it should be cut across board. Some people believe that the richest man should pay the most. Some people believe that the one who uses it the most should pay the most. There are various ideas. That's where you have a government. So the government comes in and says, okay, I'm taking money from all of you guys daily. We're going to decide how best to go about this road. So individualism is not a reality. Individualism is far from a reality. But that's what these guys like to push, because when they push that narrative, it helps them blame black people. You see, what they're doing is they will jump to one mentality when they can blame black people for something, and then use another mentality to blame black people on something. So one day you're going to say individualism because you just want to tell black people that you're responsible for your own thing. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then tomorrow you're going to say it's the mentality and that it's the schools that are watering us down, and we just happen to be some crazy people who just randomly want to kill each other. And this is why you can have all the facts, but if your logic and your mentality is not right, you can use the facts to deceive people. Like I used to, when I was young, I used to be in a lot of debates, and when I was around the age of 16, 17, 18, and I used to be in these Black Power organizations, and I used to be debating men at the age of 30 and whatever, and I used to be embarrassing them. I remember one time an old man with dreads pulled me to the side and he said, "You've got to be careful. You have the tongue of a snake." And I remember that stuck in my mind. I was like a snake, like me? One of the realest niggas here, you want to call me a snake? But what he was trying to say was my words were sharp and the way I would speak to people could hurt them. Because at the end of the day, it's not really always about what you say. It's about how you say it and how you use the information you have. You can have two facts and make a whole speech and be able to make people believe everything in the speech once those two facts are true. I think there's a saying, the best way to tell a lie is to tell the truth, is to put it in the truth. The best way to serve poison is to put it in tasty food. So just because you're listening to these people who come up and open books and Candace Owens comes in and says 5%, it doesn't mean that her mentality is going in the right direction. Just because Officer Tatum bigs up his chest and talks with a thick voice and puts in some ghetto in his talk and lets you know that, yeah, he's got tattoos and he wears his cap, it doesn't mean he's not a fool. He's a fool. He's a fool. He just literally broke down to you that is the miseducation of these young men that's making them kill in Chicago. In another video, he tells you that individualism is how you have to, individualism is how you have to live, why are you bringing up fatherless people? Why are you bringing up people who identify with people who are counterproductive to their community? Why are you bringing down the matriculation or whatever word he used? And this is what I'm saying. You have to dissect everything. You cannot listen to these guys and let them pull out a statistic about black on black crime, or pull out a statistic about Chicago, or pull out a statistic about miseducation. You got to play Sudoku with these guys. You got to join the dots. You've got to ask, well, if you say this, why do you say that? Don't let them, when someone teaches you something, you've got to have, you can't be ignorant. You cannot throw it away, but you've got to store it in a part. Before you internalize it, you got to store it in a part of your brain. Do you understand? Just keep it there. Don't believe it, but keep it there. And then after time goes on, if things prove it right or if things prove it wrong, then you decide what to do with that information. Because I'm not talking as enemies to Tatum and Candace Owens. I was fans of these people. I was listening to these people. I would like every time I finish writing stuff relative to my work or typing a few things out before I sleep, I'm going to switch on YouTube and look for Tatum and look for Candace Owens. I would literally come out and look for these guys, look for the Hodge twins. And I don't know, there was just a sudden breaking point. I think it might be probably where Black Lives Matter started. And I started to hear these views. I'm going to tell you this. I'm straight up Trump. Because, you see, the Trump racist, in fact, I'll get into that in my next video. But But the racists who are on Trump's side, they don't even really know what's up. But sorry, I started on that. This is going to be a 3-part video, and this is part 1. So I'll get into the racism in part 2. And the most important part of this video is actually the second part. And when I wanted to show some relevance to it. I started doing some research on some of I wanted to go back and get some things that Tatum had said. And the more I went back, the more I said, oh shit, all of this is wrong. So I'm going to do a 3-part video. So this is part 1, but all of this is about knowing how you think. Okay. The truth is out there. You know what I mean? Don't let someone try and erase the truth just because they speak confidently. There have been many people like this guy who've come and gone. Now, if you see some of my old videos, there was a guy like him called Tommy Sotomayor, but he used to have the angle of blaming black women. And he's still online, but me and a few others, we killed his fire. We killed his fire. Me and another guy called Tyrone Thompson, we killed his fire. And he used to have this angle on blaming black women. And as time went on, the problem with Tommy Sotomayor, what he did that Tatum isn't doing is, Tommy Sotomayor had a very open platform where people could come and talk to him. So the more people will talk to him, the more people will challenge him. You see what I'm saying? And not people who hated him, sometimes even his own fans. And they'll be like, okay, so what are we going to do? And then eventually he came to this conclusion that he was going to do this movie. And then he would ask people to fund him for the movie. And it was the same white racist people who were supporting and loving him. There were always those black people, but it was the same white racist people who were loving him and supporting him. Until one time he took all of this money and never produced the movie. He was supposed to produce this movie in 2014, 15, or sometime, or maybe even a little bit before that. And more than almost 10 years later, he's still doing interviews talking about how he's going to release this fatherless movie. And his back got pushed to the wall and people saw that he was a fake nigga. And I'm telling you, these guys are fake. These guys are fake. You cannot sit down there, Candace Owens, and open your mouth and say that the root of the problem is miseducation, and turn around and make 100 more videos talking about black people are just ignorant. Not in those words, but you know what I mean. Because you've already got the root of the problem. You've actually even blamed the problem on the government. You've blamed the problem on the schools. So, which means that every time you talk about black people after that point, you should be dealing with the schools, because you've that's like someone getting their house trashed by the government, and then they don't shower, and then every day you come and tell them that you smell because you just want to smell. You just naturally decide to smell. Well, they're smelling because they have nowhere to shower and their house has been torn down by the government. So anytime you want to talk about how bad they stink, you got to start with the government. Now, I'm not saying that that person should sit down and blame it on the government, but if the government keeps breaking down their house every time they build a house, then that's the case. So this is technically what I'm trying to say. You have to be able to dissect these people, because these people are not here to tell you the truth. They don't make money from you. Officer Tatum has been telling people he's got something coming up soon. He's told people what he's got coming up soon already. He's told people that he's raising funds for the police. You already see it. So if you're sitting down as a black person thinking that you're going to get something from these people, you better wake up. So I don't want to make this video too long. Like I said, this is part of this is going to be a 3-part video. I think the next one is the most important. And like I said, I don't mind if we only get 100 views. Sorry, we ain't even reaching 100 views. I don't mind if we're only getting like 10, 20 views. That's okay. I just hope that the people, if you're listening to this, you are absorbing this, you are understanding this. We got to get Trump in office. All right. But I don't want you guys to feel like you need to embrace these views of black people. You know what I mean? To be able to support your Republican perspective, or to be able to support Trump. So I'm going to end this video here. Like the video. What does he say? Like this video, comment on this video, share this video. Let people know about it. If you got a Republican friends, let them know. I think I might get into part 2 right now.